Now, I could talk and talk, and I've only turned so many pages, so many more pages, but let's see. And this is one where Muhammad is being told about Oromo Gilto, his life a bit, so there's a passage about that. But I think is
he is a very important figure in the
that's right.
Oromo
That's
history.
right. Yeah, in the history of the Oromo quest for freedom, he's definitely a major figure, very intelligent, and he, the Amharas, they made a mistake because Oromo Gilto was a businessman. He would have stayed a businessman. He would have stayed a businessman.
He was originally he lived in Yemen, right? Oromo Gilto, yeah.
Well, he was, and there was the story here. Oromo Gilto was born in 1936 in Gandagalan, a village not, I don't know if I said that right, a village not far from Wata, where Jera's family resided. Yeah, it's not far from there, where Jera's family resided. Oromo knew Jera, because that's Jera Abagada, by the way. Jera's father was famous. Gilto was a religious student, studying in and around Wata. His trustworthiness got him a job in Deri Dawa as a shopkeeper selling cloth for a Yemeni businessman, and subsequently moved in with his family. Problems existed between Arab countries and Israel. Since Haile Selassie was pro-Israel, he forced many Arabs out of the country. The Yemeni businessman and his family had to return to Yemen. Gilto considered one of the family and went with them. So he was a businessman when he starts out. Now, what happened was there was an event where he unexpectedly, to his great surprise, was imprisoned when in Ethiopia later. I don't want to go into that because that's part of the story.
Yeah, please, yeah, if you don't mind, just a little bit more.
But the point is that he was not someone who that was not his bent. He didn't know anything about this Oromo stuff until he was actually detained with other Oromos, and they explained to him what was going on, because they were torturing him and they treated him very, they abused him, and he didn't understand it because I didn't know anything before. I don't know anything. They're trying to get information out of him. He's supposed to know all this stuff. But so they made an enemy of Oromo Gilto. He wasn't an enemy of the Amhara.
You think it was a mistake to arrest him?
Not for the Amharas. I mean, for the Amharas, for the Ethiopian government, the Abyssinians, it was a mistake. Because he was a very intelligent man. He had many friends, business people he knew. He was a man who could get things done, among other parties from other nations, and he was an organizer. He was a very good organizer. So he started to work on behalf of the OLF, and he had a lot to do with that, with the building up of the OLF in Yemen. Before Jera first crossed over the first time with his band of 20 or so, and was captured because a camel driver turned him in. But he's a renter of camels. I guess he's a driver as well. And that's a good story in that one. So, and I don't know. I think that's it takes it from the beginning, his earliest life. So it's very short. It's not a long story, but it's complete. It's complete. And I don't know if you can find that kind of a tidy story about Oromo Gilto anywhere else.
Yes,
tidy story.
Fascinating part about him. Yeah, I think many of our readers would be interested in finding out, his evolution, as a fighter, as a businessman. So that would be a very interesting read, I think.
Yeah, I think they would like that and know more about him. And so I want to talk about that.
Just to say something, I guess part of the challenge in terms of, not just this story, but when we talk about Ethiopia in general, there's always a struggle, I guess, to understand, what motivates people to go to the jungle or to go to the desert, So that's sort of one of the most vexing kind of, question, and we don't have an answer for, why people go to that length, give up their life, their way of life.
You mean to fight? To fight like that?
To fight, yeah, to fight. Or
to fight for Oromia.
Yeah, in this case, Oromia, and then you have the Tigrayans, who went to the desert, up north, to defend, their cause, and now, unfortunately, they end up doing the same thing, as far as their government. Uh,
Oh yeah,
so, yeah, but so there's a lot of wisdom, in terms of what people can learn from the stories that are laid out in the book. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I'm thinking that the governments make their own enemies.
Hmm. Hmm.
I mean, this wasn't an enemy until they made him one.
Yes.
They had assumed he was an enemy, and by assuming it, they made him one.
Hmm.
It's not the first time that has happened.
Yes. Unfortunately.
There was, yeah, but it happens time and time again
Hmm.
in even contemporary situations. The same movement. So what I have then is that. So you have that. What's that one? Oh yes. So it talks about here, but he's because you can't say Muhammad was the story of the Oromo or what's happening and who's who where. It's not like you're positioning yourself in the story by learning about people's lives to some extent. We don't want to go into lives in great detail, but we do want to position Muhammad in a context.
Right.
So you have to position the players around Muhammad,
Hmm.
so that you give him a dimensions
Right.
as a story.
Yeah, I mean, he's not operating in a vacuum, obviously. Yeah.
That's right. But it's not only that. You want to be able to see it, see the dynamics.
Hmm.
So you want to be able to feel the dynamics around him, and because they help to create the man.
Right.
So, and there's a bit of a love story in here. I won't tell you much about that, but there is one. And there's and it goes in. It does have a take on a meeting in Finfinne, and this meeting is significant.
Hmm.
And Finfinne is Addis Ababa. Who those people don't know. And say, man, Finfinne is the Oromo name or capital or their invaded there earlier. So I have a question that took place, which I've mentioned in others in probably the Journal of Oromo Studies, whatever it's called, something like that. Excellent resource for learning about. And it occurred in December 1973, and it brought Roberto together with someone like Lencholata, Hussein Sura, others. It was a well-known meeting. Lencholata claimed that it was the beginning of the OLF at one time. I think he didn't quite make such a strong claim in another article I read by him, but he's a very good writer. He has some very good ideas, Lencholata. But there is a difference between Gerard Abagada's approach and Lata's approach.
Hmm. Just on learn just briefly, without getting into the details of the story
About
itself.
the difference.
Yeah, the Jara Bagada and Len Cholata.
Well,
These are two very classical,
I think that
key figures in the struggle for
they are.
um,
I think that
Oromo freedom.
it was the realization for Gerard Abagada. His father was in a position of authority in I believe Selassie's organization,
Hmm.
and I think he was a regional administrator, I think, of some note. So he was one of the elites, you could say, of the Oromo, and he played a part in governance, Haile Selassie's governance of the country to some extent.
Hmm.
But Gera went to the farm. They had a farm in the country, and because I think that he spent probably he didn't grow up there. He probably grew up in the city or in the more urban environment. So he went there because he was interested in what the farm was like. But he saw how the Oromos were treated there. He saw how they were subjugated. So his experience, he's intelligent, and he also has a feeling for the culture. In his high school, when he was in high school, he also helped to um, promote the Oromo theater and cultural activities, stage, stage affairs. So he was part of arousing the culture that way. He was also a part of seeing when he responded to the way these people were being treated. So he responded with a heart, you could say. And he wanted to do something about it. So he was going to fight, and he did. So he thought of an activity he would do, an activity he would take on. So he was very, he had that sense of outrage, is what I think he had. But he also was a big man, and he was an important man, and so he had a presence. He had a certain presence, a charisma, I would say, personally, that carried him in his actions, that gave weight to what he decided to do or what he wanted to carry out, or among men. So that's the kind of person he was. Now Lencho leans more towards the intellectual. So he's a thinker. So he's also, so he likes to, what he's written is very well written. I've read quite a bit of it, and I'm quite impressed with it. But he doesn't see that. He always wants to work a little more of the consensus idea that you have. I would say more along that idea, maybe in some way. I don't know if I would say that, but he's not into fighting like Jiraiya. He's not into the military aspect so much. And in his writings, they seem to be devoid of that dynamic that you have, that makes I don't see him as, to me, he always seems kind of level-headed, Lancholata. He always maintains a level-headedness. So when he thinks about something, he thinks it through, and he gives you some well-thought-out material, well worth looking at and considering. And so he comes from that end of things in terms of change. And I don't feel it has that body. It doesn't have the sense of the body that Vijaya Abhagata does. He has the sense of presence, body, hug, a big hug, and a person who reaches out to people that way and wants to embrace them. I don't sense Linchaladas like that. So I think he likes a little distance.
More aloof than intellect.
I think so. Yes, an intellectual, like that, mental. And so he's more aloof. He wants to work it out in discussions and so on and so forth. So, and he also takes a very broad view. And that's my opinion. All of this is just opinion, mine.
Yes, of course.
So I don't make too much. But I just I do.
Just to clarify something again, because it's a part of ours here. Again, we're not going to get into the details of the storyline here. Before we move to a new topic, I guess going back to the issue of the difference between Jarrah Baghdad and Lynch Olata, you explained their personality very deftly. But as far as I guess their approach to solving the Oromo question, did you notice anything? I mean, there's a ton of stuff that's written about them in the book. But if you can just give us a little bit of highlight in terms of their approach to the question of the Oromos.
Well, I have the feeling that Vijaya Bagada wanted to first of all, he did see the Oromo as an activity, active, and not a different, not as a political activity, but I think he fundamentally saw it as a cultural activity. So by that I mean he wanted to raise up the ardor of the Oromo for their culture, and so he goes back to their history. So he wants to see them live the history in the present, to give it recognition in the present, in art and in language. I think in those things he wanted to be alive. Uh, and so he wanted it to have room to be happy and joyous. I think he wanted that.
Be proud of your
And
culture. Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's what culture is about, that you're happy to be whatever you are, that you're happy to be an Oromo. I am so happy to be an Oromo. So that's really what he's looking for, is to bring back the sense of well-being that the Oromos deserve, they had, and should have again.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that's where he comes from, that kind of, and that's a lot of power from that angle. And that's why at one point, was it no, I don't think it was, but anyway, so that's where I think he's coming from, and that's how he sees it. And he sees it in action, like you have to fight back. We have to make room for ourselves. So we have to make a space, that kind of space.
Mm-hmm.
We have to push back. I don't think he saw, and a lot of Oromos this way. In the book, there are two heroes, called them, Myra and Dulativ.
Mm-hmm.
And these two are big men. The Myra is also big, but maybe not. I think he had a lot of hair. But they were like brothers, and they were very close. They and Mohammed made a little group of three, a little threesome, and they were like brothers almost. And they both gave their lives to the Oromo cause in battle. So that's something that's in the book. Maybe I shouldn't have told you, but you are. And so when I think about it now, this very moment, I'm thinking that Mohammed has very much both. He's very much head, and he's very much heart. So I think he's maybe a little of both, Lancho and Gera. But he was very much taken by Gera.
Mm-hmm.
You will find the story. He's trying to catch up with Gera. Gera is escaping from certain situations he's in. He's being helped to get away and to find safety, and he goes from one place to another. And part of the story is Mohammed tried to catch up with him.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't really catch up with Gera. So, I shouldn't have said that. I keep saying it away. But
Yeah, no worries.
but I think Lancho is taking another approach, and it is also valuable. So I don't want to say, I wouldn't really want to criticize it, because I have enjoyed some of his writing. I have enjoyed some of the logic that he has uncovered in the way the Amhara put down the Oromo. Some of the arguments they use to put down the Oromo. The facts that he uses, those same facts the Amhara use to support an opposite, a contradictory conclusion about the Amharas. So you have to read the article to know what I'm talking about. No, I'm not going to mention it just now. But Lencho is a good writer. He's quite good, and he is concerned as well.
Yeah. There is no doubt about I guess Lencho's capability. I think he's one of the few individuals, I guess, who kind of truly have a good understanding of the nature of not just Oromo conflict, I guess, per se, but Ethiopian conflict in general. And one of the issues is I guess from the Oromo side at least, he has been accused of, I guess, supporting the unity of Ethiopia. So in a way, trying to find solution to the Oromo problem within the context of Ethiopia without declaring Oromo independence and so forth. But I mean, there's still debate.
Well, I can understand, yes, although I think that, but I'm not sure that, well, we have our differences, you and I,
Yeah.
and you are more towards, as you have said, a consensus. You prefer the consensus situation as an outcome.
A pragmatist. I'm more of a pragmatist, yeah.
A what?
A pragmatist, yeah.
Oh, I don't know if I would call that pragmatism. I would say that that's an idealism. So I think that the pragmatism is to acknowledge the situation, and that it may require a stronger mode of approach. At the same time, one that takes a stand more opposite, not quite so, let's go to the table. I don't think that the table, there have been a lot of going to the table over the history of men, and many times somebody in the table has been taken for a ride. So I don't, and in many cases, in these cases, the Oromo have been a few times. So I'm not sure that's pragmatic. I think it might be idealist. It's a certain kind of idealism to me that it could come about. I don't happen to think so, because there are too many stresses that are even outside of Ethiopia. And the very fact of trying to create a country like a nation state, well, I believe that the nation state today is not the dominant form of governance. I think empire is the dominant form of governance, and pretty much through those who have, well, I don't want to go into it, but I think that that we're looking at empire, particularly from the United States, and particularly from the corporate sector, that there's the concept of empire overrides the concept of nation state. Nation state was used by empire builders to carve up and divide amongst themselves wealth of colonized countries. So, including Ethiopia. I mean, Halassi was not colonized as an individual. I mean, perhaps wasn't colonized as an Abyssinian. But certainly Ethiopia was colonized through him. So I don't believe that by the West. I mean, he was pretty astute. I have to say for Haile Selassie and for Menelik. Menelik was very, very astute as well. These were smart thinkers. They knew how to play a game. So they did it very well. And they were as good as anybody in the West as far as playing the game. So I think they have to be given their, what was due them. So, and then they weren't stupid by any means. Extremely, no, extremely complex thinking and moving. The pieces on the chessboard was. Selassie was as good as any.
Yeah, you
I
can
mean, Menelik as well.
yeah, you can make different arguments, as far as their leadership, in terms of how they, especially Menelik, how he went about, the building of the modern, I guess, Ethiopia. But in terms of his leadership, it wasn't easy, to put together a country like Ethiopia. Now, how he did it, that's something we can do.
It was, So I mean, he was he had his own. There was that which was astute about him. So I want to grant him. I think he did anyway. He was playing with some players that didn't give him a lot of credit. Italy and some of the other Western powers at the time.
Yeah.
They were quite. I think they were quite taken aback by his ability to play them sometimes. And
he knew how to rally his base, even how to use the Oromos to fight the Muslims in Wallo, how to fight the Battle of Adwa. I mean, those are the two key groups that played a major role in terms of
there's a little bit of luck in that one, but
turning the tide of war. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it brought him quite a bit of kudos when he did that. Mm-hmm. But apart from that, when I look at I don't think that. Well, this is a personal opinion. It is not a highly educated opinion. I've only recently, well, it's been 5 years, and I've been doing some reading over that period of time. But I've done a lot of other readings and put my energy into other areas of interest besides the Oromo. So it's not like 5 years of steady concentration on the Oromo history or that kind of thing. And I have not. I have picked up quite a lot, so I have a little bit of attitude. You know what I mean? Maybe it's supported by the facts. Maybe it's supported by intelligence. I will not say. That's for others to judge the way they feel about it. But where was I headed with this? Well, anyway.
I mean, you have a lot of experience in terms of making new discoveries, in the course of interviewing Muhammad and learning more.
Yeah, that's right. And reading the books. And I have to.
It's a very complicated story. Yeah.
Yeah, it is complicated. That's true. But also, Mohammed Hassan his history is very good. of the Oromo. He's a standalone insofar as he's the one who has really made, uh, he has broken ground in bringing together the sources and making sense of those sources and making them intelligible to others. Certainly, he has been a groundbreaker in the field of scholarship in Oromo history.
That's Dr. Mohammed Hassan that you're referring to.
Yeah, Hassan Ali, yes.
So, would you share a story like anything that happened within the confines of Ethiopia? I know we've been talking about the events that happened in Somalia so far in terms of the stories. Is there any particular event in terms of what there are battlefields that are fought, and many tragedies also happened in Ethiopia in the course of uh, the fighting. Is there anything that kind of struck you as far as the
Now,
events
are
that?
we talking about at the time of the book?
Yeah, from the book.
Mohammed's time in
Right.
77, 78?
Yes,
Or,
yes. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
well, I think that uh, what it boils down to in the age that we've been living in for quite a while now, actually, is that the gun, the gun has done away with negotiation and, parley, as we say, like palaver, parley. You don't parley between each other. You don't bother. You just shoot the other side. If you have more guns, you just shoot them. If you have more planes, you just drop more bombs. And you win. You don't have to listen to the other side. So I figured that with this kind of way of dealing with each other, first of all, first thing you do is you have to denigrate. That means you have to say, you're just a piece of, and that's what you are. You're just a piece of, and I can do with you what I want because you are not like me. I am, I am what I am. So, but and because and you are nobody and thing to me, then it isn't hard. First thing you have to do is shoot somebody and make sure that you are. You see, you can't shoot them wrong. If you're going to call them in, that means you must have some respect. Shoot them like that. Talk to them. But if you can call them God, oh yeah, you can shoot them. They're hardly even a human being. So I mean, this is what you do. This is what all people do. This is how much that's what they do today. Look what they're doing in the United States with people who follow Islam. They say all of them are the same, and that they're all evil. So that's what you do first, and then you do whatever you want with them because they're not a human being. So I guess this is very much what we're living with today. You have to of all respect your opponent. You have to see that they have a point. But the contemporary world, the white concept is they first of all, you have to become one of them. Otherwise, you aren't anything at all. Otherwise, so you have to become like them. So it's not a melting pot. Well, since it is a melting pot, everybody's thrown into the melting pot. They're all melted down to the same mixed up metal, but it better be white when it's done. So I guess I feel that this is not respect for other people. So there's very little respect shown by the dominant societies in the world today.
So demonization is, I guess.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So actually, you brought up a very kind of interesting concept. So, I mean, the way I guess I see the world nowadays, and tying it back to what happened in the book, because there's a lot of genocide, uh, really, really bad and terrible events that happened in this book, and part of the reason why I feel very strongly about the book is because that genocide also ended up destroying my family. So it has a very strong resonance, in terms of why I'm working on this story with you and with Muhammad and other people who are involved in crafty story. Um, and I see genocide happening pretty much all over the world now. I mean, we thought there was globalization, this small the idea of a small village. We're all part of the same family. We could be our skin shades might be slightly different. Might worship our gods in different ways. But at the end of the day, with this concept of the emergence of globalization, at least we have become very close. That's I guess what we were led to believe. Just I guess maybe a decade ago or something. But I see now it's pretty much splintering into its enclaves. So what's happening here just today? The gassing of women and children. I mean, unthinkable. Just a decade. But just watching everybody who's doing it. You see the same thing happening in places like India. I mean, just second to kill day while celebrating this festival. The Oromo, just about or something. I mean, it's one place. It's another event. Oh, possibly there, 3,000 people bombed over there. I mean, are becoming almost kind of sized to these sort of events.
Well, I think that also have is. I think the net has made it much more. Made community extraordinarily skilled. I mean, we have it's out there. It's statement, thing, the mission of just like the tower. You have all the which is another working on it. Talk to each other. Feel that like Facebook, that and to hire leave about what's going on, who's it, all of who's doing it. And someone they're doing so they recognize them. And they are concerned. They're doing it, but their own country's doing it. So I mean, also they're doing it for money mostly. Money mostly. Because they want to make money. Well, I mean, they're selling the weapons. They're not selling the weapons. They're selling the weapons because they're getting money back for it. It's a huge industry in weaponry. Huge. Probably the biggest industry out there is the selling of weapons. So you have to have wars. How can you, I mean, you have to have wars. That's why people buy weapons, to have a war. Or defend themselves in it. You take something like Yemen, the Yemen nation of Yemen. I mean, it's a wipeout of civilians. It's a wipeout of civilians. It's not even a war among military people. They pretend that and maybe there were some military groups that they're fighting, but they never fight them. They drop bombs on harbors, on containers with food for people. They drop bombs on them. They destroy ports so that they can't be brought to people who are starving. I mean, the whole thing is a charade, a macabre charade. Unbelievable. And that's one of many. Syria, I mean, when you look at those pictures of, what's that place called? Ghouta? Something like that?
Yes.
Ghouta, you look at the pictures of them, it's totally devastated. I mean, the buildings are totally leveled. There's nothing. How can you go back in there and live? And nobody's got a place to live. It's a destruction of societies.
Yeah, it's almost like a movie, yeah.
Yeah, well, this is the problem. Maybe too many movies is what numbs the mind to the reality. Because I think that maybe movies, I love movies, kind of, you lose the sense of reality. I think a lot of people don't live in reality anymore. Live in something else.
I think that's my biggest fear, yeah. It just kind of dawned on me, yeah. It's like, society, pretty much. I mean, everywhere. I mean, we're talking about Ethiopia now, but um, everywhere you look, it's just it seems like we're going back. Like human nature. I mean, we're here, I guess, physically, but we don't have a soul in a way.
Yeah, I think that you're right. I think that I would agree with that statement. Um, and also, people are really, it's a really like the idea of selfies. Everywhere you go, it's got to be a selfie. I mean, you're not really looking at what you're looking at. You've got to be in it. You're looking at you in it. So it's kind of funny. It's like you've got to be in, your face has got to be in all of these pictures of anything that's of import. It's like you're not looking at it. You never, in these pictures, are looking at it. When a person looks at a picture of you, they're always looking at a picture of you in it. So what makes the picture valuable is the you in the picture, not the thing that's valuable. Maybe a historical building, maybe an event that's happening. But what's important is that I'm there.
It's fascinating.
Yes. Yeah. But it's not that I would not give up. I was telling somebody today that I'm a little bit too much in the dark. I'm a dark person. But and I believe that it's the balance of light and dark. You must save yourself. You have to save yourself. You cannot go too dark. You have to have a light somewhere. There must be a light for you, for everyone. Everyone must have something that's light, that's good, that they can embrace, something that calms the soul. And it brings you to a state of, I said this today to somebody else, but this is something I read. We're going to go on the El Camino, the El Camino Frances, my wife and I. That's a pilgrimage to Santiago in Spain. I plan to do that at the end of the month. And you take a backpack and you just walk the trail of the pilgrimage to St. James. And it's, the saints' remains are in a cathedral in Compostela de Santiago, or Santiago de Compostela, I guess it's called. And that's the end point. So you walk. It's 790 kilometers, and you walk the whole thing on the trail, the pilgrimage trail, across from the Pyrenees to, and there are many trails to it. The one we're taking is called the El Camino Frances. So it goes from France to just this side of Portugal.
So what's the significance of this trail?
It's the idea of a pilgrimage. It's a religious thing. So it's a religious walk. It's a little like going to the Hajj, but not quite the same. But it's a little bit like that. So you're going to because you're doing this as a spiritual endeavor. Not all people do it. Some of them do it because you have to be fit, and it's a proof of your fitness. Your body is able to take it. So I hope I can do it. You go about 20 kilometers a day or something more than that. So you just walk with your backpack. And they have refugios, they call them, places where you can sleep, hostels where you can stop. Thousands of people do this every year. But what I'm trying to say is that there may be some light for me in that, I hope, in that walk.
Yeah, we can't give up on hope, I guess.
No.
As bad as things look, we still have to remain optimistic, I guess.
No, we can't give up on hope. And I've never seen the Oromo. The Oromos don't give up on hope. So you're in a situation, you've been in it before, you've seen it, and you have a new generation embracing it, throwing themselves into it. So the impetus is still there. So no, the Oromos have not given up hope. And I don't think they will. And yeah, that's a bit of light in that.
Yes, yeah. And also, finally, do you have any closing, I guess, remarks that you want to make regarding the Oromos? Any message, kind of, advice or any
My advice is this, is that there is a standard view of the past. Now I'm talking about the depths of the past. What was real, what wasn't real. I think that you have to look at Waka. This is the past of the Oromo. There was a relationship with a god. It still is for some. A relationship established, which actually established the Oromo people in a way. It's basic to them. And I think you may have, and it's a root. And the idea of a tree and a root, I like that. Because it's a root to go to. Because there's the idea of Waka as a god, that there still is a God, that addressed you as a people in your entirety. So it doesn't matter what you believe now or what you have embraced. As an Oromo, you all embrace the same beginning. You had a beginning, and it was